This is Laura Mataitis, Credit Manager at WTOG, CW44 in Tampa, Florida. You're watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Here's your host, Ryan Salazar.
Ryan Salazar here with NAB Show Live. Are you guys having a great 2016 show?
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be giving some toys away. We're about to go with some guests in just a few moments here. But New Blue Effects, the makers of Titler Pro and other fantastic graphics plugins for editors. I just have one trivia question for you guys. And thanks for that, Doug Hansel from High Res PR. How many weddings happen in a single day in Las Vegas, roughly? So whoever can give that answer to Liz first and be as close to that number as possible is going to win some stuff from New Blue Effects. But anyway, so we are going to go to the show now. We've got some guys that I've been working with for quite some time, and we've interviewed them at several industry shows. The first guy, we go way back, Bruce Devlin from Dalet. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very fine, thank you very much.
Excellent. Then we have Paul Turner from Telestream. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, Ryan. Doing good.
Great to have you, sir. And then we have Clyde Smith from Fox.
Doing well, thank you.
Excellent. So Clyde, let's start with you. Talk about what you do.
So really for the past year, I've been focused on taking the brilliant work that was done in the UK with the DPP and joining that up with the North American Broadcasters Association. So at Fox, we had issues with file-based workflows, as many people do. And we saw the brilliant work that was done by the DPP and what had been accomplished there. And they established a relationship with NABA last year to create a common file-based format or specification for North American broadcasters, using a lot of the structure of what had already been done and building on the success of the UK initiative.
But really, it's all about changing the culture, changing the way in which people move media around in a B2B sense to actually make that a profitable business relationship for everyone concerned.
Cool. So Bruce, while we have you for a second here, if you could go ahead and talk about what you do with Dalet, and then if you could go into the little bit of the history of file standardization that you have, because I think it's very interesting.
Have we got 35 hours to do it? No, I'll do the very short version.
Right.
So I am the Chief Media Scientist at Dalet, and my role is to guide the media technology strategy of the Dalet Group to make certain that whether we're talking MAM or talking transcode or ingest or any of the other things that Dalet does, that the media strategy is right for the way that our customers want to work now and in the future.
Excellent.
And so my notoriety and the reason people have voodoo dolls of me on their desks is because I was one of the guys that chaired the MXF group to try and bring MXF into existence. And I've been involved in just about all the different strands of MXF, whether it's digital cinema, whether it's IMF, whether it's the digital production partnership, or whether it's one of the initiatives that the AMWA had, which was to create application specifications. And really what the DPP's managed to do is to define an application, a business problem that can be solved with MXF. And the business problem is, how do I take something that's pretty much ready to air and QC it and give it as an electronic package to someone who's going to air it and make money?
Okay.
And that's really the essence, the technical essence of what we've tried to do.
Excellent. And so Paul, I know Telestream very, very well. Talk about how you guys are integrated with DPP.
Well, sure, on a couple of levels. As a manufacturer of transcoding software, of course, we're in the middle of the melee that Bruce describes of trying to get a file from its MES format over to play out in a format that somebody can actually play. We're deeply involved in all of these files transformations, but also on a personal level, I've been pretty heavily involved with the AMWA and creating the application specifications, which are kind of a step in the way to getting towards DPP. It's a really important project, and I think it proves that user-driven activities can really have bearing on the way that manufacturers get together and actually make this stuff work.
So why was DPP such a bold initiative?
Well, I'd say one of the reasons was that there's a huge inertia to keep doing things the way that you've done in the industry, unless there's a good, compelling business reason to change. So looking in the UK, the default option to get content into the broadcaster was give them a tape. It works, because if that bit of plastic goes in the slot, it's going to work.
Right.
And at the time, there was a huge interoperability problem between a dozen vendors making files with different bits of software and different people receiving software with anything from a really professional piece of kit like a harmonic piece of kit or a Telestream or an NABA all the way down to free stuff people got off the internet. So really what the DPP was trying to do is find a way to take the tools that are defined in the MXF toolbox and slim down the options and do three key things. One is to make the options very, very restricted so that you know what you're trying to do. And the second bit was then to define how to test that you have hit the spec. And thirdly, and most importantly, and I'm sure Paul will wax lyrically about this bit, is to put a compliance outfit in place to check that the tests have been done correctly and that the products do what they say on the tin.
Excellent.
And that was the key.
Okay. So now, what were the challenges in getting end users to agree to DPP?
I think really we should have an end user to answer that one.
Yeah, so real quick, so you're with Fox, and so I assume it's a big thing.
So you can imagine getting ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Turner, HBO, CBC Canada, Bell Media, et cetera, all together in the same room to describe their requirements. And they're very proud of these documents that range from 5 to 28 pages. And you're going to say, my baby is ugly? It's kind of hard to do that. But we analyzed the documents and saw that they really were a mix of technical requirements, business requirements, and creative intent production requirements. So first you separate those three out. And then you look at what are the problems with them. And we found ambiguity, deviation, and disparity. Ambiguity, you cite a specification, and you don't give all the modes and options that are relevant in that specification to be precisely clear about what you want and to make it testable. Or you cite a specification, and then later there's a business or production requirement that kind of conflicts with that specification. And then there's the deviation. You cite a spec, and the spec then you give options that aren't included in that specification. Maybe too many audio channels. Maybe you put the captions in the wrong place. Maybe you do timing incorrectly, things of that sort. And then there's the disparity, which I like to say is the we've always done it this way syndrome. And we ruled out disparity by saying only requirements that survive are those that produce true business or creative value or technical interoperability. And one by one, we got people to say, well, if we're the only ones that are different, why should we be the only ones that are different? And today, this evening, we are releasing the first 2 of 4 specifications. These are the air-ready masters for people that have workflows where you take a file and put it in the on-the-air server and play it out. And we've got one for MPEG-2 and one for MPEG-4. In the future, we're now working on a library master for people whose workflows have changed and they take in one input and they use that to create the air master and all the OTT copies as well. And then we're also working on a UHD master copy as well. So those are the 2 follow-ons that we'll have to talk about next time we meet.
Yeah, so it's kind of the Wild West as far as standardization goes, and when everything was tape-based and everything, it was it was quite much more organized. And now that we've got all these formats, Bruce, it's crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy, but it comes down to a very simple thing, is that if you've got a spec that's maybe like MXF, it's like 700 pages, and then you've got MPEG-4, which is another 1,000 pages, and then you've got the proprietary wrappings of that, which is another 600 pages. What are the chances that any 2 engineers on different sides of the planet are going to implement all of that identically? And as Clyde says, unless you get rid of all the options and you get an economically significant, big enough group to say, let's do it this way, because at the end of the day, it comes as a great surprise to people who buy the equipment that we make and that you make, that we're not charities. If we have to hit 25 different delivery specs, we will charge our customers all the money that we need to cover that engineering cost. And you know what? Those 25 delivery specs are all doing the same job, and nobody is benefiting from those different specs. And when a customer stands up and says, I want to be special, yep, we'll happily charge the customer to be special, but if that speciality is not delivering business benefit, why would you do it?
Right.
And that's really the secret of what we've managed to do.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't underestimate that one of the fundamental things that made the DPP successful was the certification process.
Absolutely.
And that has, there's nothing wrong with the standards process, and there's nothing wrong with MXF. This is not fixing MXF.
You said that on camera.
I know.
There's nothing wrong with MXF.
I'll take it back later. It's just covering a lot of use cases.
Yep.
And what's been happening here with AMWA and the DPP is they've just trimmed it down to say, yeah, that's good for a certain use case. That's not us. This is what we need. And then they put in an authority to say, and this is great for manufacturers because we'll all test this stuff and we'll all think that our files are wonderful and none of us will think our baby is ugly.
Yep.
But you need an authority that you can send these files to that says, yeah, I kind of missed this one thing.
Yep.
And that, I think, has been the fundamental thing that has made this particular effort successful.
Yep.
Yeah, you wonder if there's a one-size-fits-all for standardization, and I think we're getting to that point. There's just a lot of different formats going on right now.
Well, I think the key is, Paul was instrumental in some of the early work here, was the application specification. Let's find a business problem that you can tailor the technology for, because putting something in an archive for 40 years is a different business problem to going for an on-air ready file. And that's a different business problem to making 37,000 different variants of a movie that has to go to every part of the planet. So once you've defined the business problem that you're trying to solve, you can actually restrict the options, tailor it, test it, and get to a point where us vendors, we like agreeing. I like being able to read your files. Yeah. You like reading my files, because that means no support calls and happy customers.
We spend a lot of money trying to diagnose why this file won't work in this piece of gear, and that's senseless.
Yeah.
And you don't just spend it once. You spend it in the initial development, you spend it in every next release that somebody has, you spend it in all the regression testing, and it's not just you, because you do it in every end user, whether it's the production house, it's the release facility, it's the network. Everybody spends additional effort because of ambiguity, disparity. There's no reason for it. You deviate from a standard and you create something that's very hard to support on an ongoing basis. And the other good part about what has been done with the AMWA and the DPP and NABA is AS11, the application spec, has been broken up into a series of blocks so that you can use these block structures to create standards around the world. So now we have Australia, New Zealand, the Nordic regions, the UK, and the US, using 80% of all the same pieces, and the other 20% is what's specifically different within their regions. But even those are standardized blocks that can be repurposed. So it's really building a foundation for the future.
So, as being with Fox, you standardize, but you standardize in an organization like Fox or ABC, CBS. You have to do this across hundreds of stations.
So, I'm representing the Fox networks in this, and hopefully the stations will follow on, et cetera, once they see the benefit of the reduction in cost and complexity, right? But this was for the Fox network and the other broadcast networks. But anybody's free to use the spec. You can download it from the Digital Production Partnership site. You can download it from the NABA site, and it's just put in your business information and you're done, and you can use the spec. And over time, it's going to save everybody a great deal of money. So
how likely will a standard become permanent here in the United States?
So I think there's two aspects to that question. One is the standard good enough to be used as a standard? And my personal belief is yes. But the other bit is the change management. And remember, the first thing I said about the DPP was it was a change management organization. And a lot of managers within the DPP who represented the end users went round and talked to post houses and broadcasters about how you change your workflows to get the business benefit of receiving a file instead of receiving a tape. And not just receiving a file, but receiving the standard file, and how you use the standard file in your workflows to deliver value. And that change management process, I think, is one of the key things that, well, we're going to be communicating that tonight at the launch event.
That's right.
But once people understand that actually not being different, but using the metadata-rich workflows that you have with a file that's rich in metadata actually delivers the same value as having your own special standard at much less cost. Suddenly you end up with an ecosystem where the vendors are happy, the end users are happy, and everyone's margins have just suddenly got a bit better.
Permit me to interrupt for a second, though. It's not a standard. It's a specification.
Specification.
And a specification is a statement of business, technical, and production requirements that are expressed in terms of support by standards. So we're building a foundation of standards that you can use to fulfill your business and creative vision and achieve technical interoperability.
Got it. All right. So Bruce, you know, well, so I'm a post guy, so.
Yep.
You know, I'm really big on standards. I've specifically in a post facility. So we're talking kind of more broadcast, I guess. Although we're kind of talking everything, really.
It's kind of everything, yeah.
You know, so in a post facility, you know, we went Apple ProRes actually just for a while, and so Apple ProRes 1920 by 1080, 2997.
Yep.
You know, it's ProRes HQ, that kind of thing. So to me, standards are a really big thing. And by the way, I've got a really close relationship with the folks at SMPTE. And we're really big on supporting them because of that. And I respect what you guys do, and specifically what you do, because you've really been like a warrior in standards.
Yeah, that's why I look so old and tired. Yes.
So Paul, Telestream, you're obviously quite integrated in this whole thing, in creating standards. When you guys create products like Vantage and whatnot, how does that come into play?
Well, you know, frankly, part of our business model is built on the idea that there are different formats that you have to work with. But for us, the point about standardization is it becomes testable and supportable. There are always going to be corner cases. We always get this file in that for some reason just doesn't work over here. And whilst we love that because that's part of our business model, how we make our money, it sucks an enormous amount of engineering and, more importantly, QA time to make sure that the product is ready to go.
Well, it's got to be quite expensive, too.
It's a significant part of our operating expenses, yeah. And you know, what we'd like to be spending money on is making more products that make us more money rather than trying to deal with corner cases, which, frankly, by and large, don't. Because with a product like Vantage, customers expect you'll give us a file and we'll give you another file, and it's all goodness. And we kind of pride ourselves on being able to do that across the vast majority of files. But then a customer will give us one file that simply doesn't make it from point A to point B, and we can spend a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks trying to diagnose it. Because the only way to do this is to get a sample file and tear it down to the bit level to figure out what's going wrong. If we can get this standardization working, it really does benefit us as a manufacturer just as much as the customers, because it's frankly a simpler proposition to diagnose the problem, especially if you have a certifying authority. Somebody else has already had a look at these files.
Yep.
So I'd like to point out one more issue. You'll notice we have common hair color. Bruce is coming along.
I'm working on it.
I just don't have any.
I'm a couple of years away, but...
And most of the standards guys do, by the way. And that's an issue in that many end users don't have people that were there for the creation of the standards, have the deep technical knowledge. And when you think about preparing a technical specification, you've got to do the audio codec, you've got to do the video codec, you've got to do the metadata, you've got to do the file format wrapper,
synchronization,
on and on and on.
Closed captioning.
Closed captioning, all the accessibility requirements, timing requirements. How many organizations still have people, or will in a couple years have people, that really truly understand that in depth? Right?
Yep.
And so by bringing together those resources across all the major networks and many supportive manufacturers participating in this, and the EBU, and the DPP experience, et cetera, we've been able to assemble a workforce that most organizations can't afford when they're preparing these specifications. So that's one advantage that we bring to people, is they don't have the time and they don't necessarily have the staff anymore to do it themselves. So here's a way you can just adopt one that's already written by an expert team.
Well, it's interesting you said that about you know, you think about talent, how the industry has evolved so much.
Right.
I'm really big about talking about, you know, how it's evolved and changed. And you know, you think about now we've got new school technologies, we had older school technologies, and the crossover between the two, it's a serious talent issue, like engineering level issue for the folks understanding that technology.
One of the important things we've done here is, besides having a written specification, which quite frankly most developers don't care to read, we're developing an XML representation of that. And so if you're a software developer, you can go to the structured XML rules base and just adopt it. Go on GitHub, download it. They're familiar with it, they're comfortable with it, and we're making it machine friendly so we can enable machine-to-machine communications in the future and automate the process so that you'll eliminate many of the errors that are human created today.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you shouldn't underestimate the whole QC process as part of the DPP, because we've used the word standard, but really we haven't made a new standard. We've done exactly what Clyde said, which is we've specified which bits of the standard we're going to use, and we specified which bits of the standard we're going to test, and we've written those down in a machine-readable language so machines can read that language and test the files automatically. And from a workflow perspective, this has an interesting consequence, because if you imagine, for example, I'm a broadcaster receiving a title from a post house. What I've bought is what I would hope is a high-quality asset. Now, actually, traditionally what would happen is you'd get a tape and then you'd QC the tape when you were the broadcaster. Now, one of the things that we found in the UK is that now that QC stage happens up at the post end. And the post end sort of certifies and says, I'm delivering you a good QC'd DPP file, and then passes it downstream. Because really, that's what you've bought. You bought something with a quality label on it that says that this was a good DPP file. And that slight change in business model actually changes quite dramatically the way in which you interact as companies, and it can make the whole pipeline and delivery chain much more auditable, testable, and much more efficient. But it's a bit of a mind change to actually take those XML documents and realize the impact of those documents actually fundamentally changes the delivery chain of how we deliver content with value and how we take cost out of that chain, yet still have people doing good, worthwhile jobs.
So I'm curious, if you could talk about your role just a little bit more at Fox, because I think about Paul and Telestream and delivery and distribution on the, it's kind of all in the same a little bit. I'm curious how you guys distribute video.
So I'm the Senior Vice President of Advanced Technology, and my role is really to support people in the labs and standards processes to solve their business and creative vision problems. So we support the sports segment of the network. We support all of the networks themselves to fulfill their business and creative vision. And we support network engineering and operations that have to fulfill and provide that business vision and creative vision. And so that's really how I got involved in this, is making it more stable and more interoperable and more flexible to evolve and support future and emerging business visions. Because while today most people have a workflow that is relatively stable, you think about with UHD coming and high dynamic range coming, all those workflows are going to be broken. So let's fix the existing workflows and make them more stable and reliable, and then also address these same structures to permit the new evolution of the business to be stable going forward and avoid the issues we had in the early days of high definition that I'm sure you lived through.
Oh yeah. So I just heard this bit from our producer Liz. It's quite interesting. I didn't realize you've had some experience with space missions.
Yes. So I did take 8 years off from television for television and do television for the space program. Supported 48 shuttle missions, 3 interplanetary missions, and a few Department of Defense missions that I can't talk about.
Okay, wow, that's pretty impressive. Bruce, where are you guys located at?
We're located in the UK, or at least the transcoding bit of Dalet's in the UK. The MAM bit of Dalet is in Paris, and we've got offices everywhere in the world. We're truly an international company.
Okay, and then Paul, of course,
we're in beautiful Nevada City, California.
Yes.
Where the trees are green and so are most of the people.
All right. Well, so again, before we get to our next segment, and again, we'll outro you guys in just a second, but we are giving away some stuff from New Blue Effects. Anybody that's interested in some really cool titling stuff for graphics folks, how many weddings happen in a single day in Las Vegas? If you can get that answer to Liz, or you can tweet it to @BroadcastBeat, and we'll get you some really cool stuff from New Blue Effects. Again, thanks from New Blue Effects. Again, Paul Turner, Bruce Devlin, and Clyde Smith. It was awesome having you here on NAB Show Live, and we'll be right back.
Thank you, Ryan.
Howdy, I'm Jack Harris, a quasi-journalist with News Radio 970 WFLA, Tampa Bay. You're watching NAB Show Live.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Here's your host, Ryan Salazar.
Ryan Salazar here at NAB Show Live and the 2016 NAB Show. Are you guys having a great time or what? Yes. Okay. There's all sorts of toys at NAB, but you know what's cool is the most exciting part about NAB to me is meeting all the cool people, learning all the things that they know or getting to know those things. And I've got a special guest on today, and I really respect what he does. Harry Glazer from SPROCKIT. How you doing, sir?
Great. How are you, man?
Doing great. It's awesome to see you.
Likewise.
Yeah, we were hanging out the other night at an industry event in town, and you know, I love startup companies, and I love, you know, that they're started by like the little guy, and sometimes that little guy can compete with the big guy eventually, and that's what you do.
Absolutely. What we do is we help the big guys basically learn to navigate the new environment. So we bring in startups to collaborate with the kings of the industry. The revolutionaries over here, the kings over here, and if you don't pay attention to the revolutionaries, you kind of topple the king. So
right, you want to make everybody.
And just because you were king, you know, just because you were king yesterday doesn't mean you mean king tomorrow. So
right,
basically collaboration to bring, you know, new products, services, and revenue models to market.
Okay, so SPROCKIT, if you could just explain the program and what it's all about.
Sure. Well, again, the whole idea is collaboration between think of it, the revolutionaries and the kings, and the whole idea is to bring them together to bring new products to market. So we have two parts to it. One is the NAB show, where we highlighted the industry, and actually today at 4:30 they're voting. I forget the vote number. Who remembers vote? Anyway.
Oh, yeah, actually I think it's 87057.
Do you? You got it?
Yes.
Oh my God, wonderful, I got saved.
I have a bad memory. I have photographic memory with numbers. It's crazy. It's a little
awesome.
Too much.
Love that.
No, let me see your bank
everybody's going to vote on the best technologies in the show. Come on over. And so we highlight the companies that make presentations on stage. They make pitches, then we have private rooms where they meet. And then we continue throughout the year. We have 3 private meetings, and we do it at our corporate members' offices. So last year we did it at Google, we did it at Univision, and we did it at Fox Studios. All day, literally 16-hour-a-day meetings. Half of it's heavy-duty work. Other part is play, but the play is actually work. And then the next one's at Samsung.
Cool. So what things are going on in the industry at large, at least the folks that are here at NAB show?
Yeah.
For you.
Well, you know, I guess for years they've been talking about the tsunami coming, you know, the convergence of media, tech, and entertainment. And it's actually here. And so what happens, that creates a, you know, the tsunami's coming, and after it wipes out everything, you've got a kind of a dystopian society. And everybody today talks about, you know, the industry giants and, you know, the unicorns. But really, it's all about being an amphibian, because the other two really aren't real. And so with those big corporations, what you have to do is learn how to grow gills and swim underwater and know when to pop up. And they got to collaborate, because it used to be, here's tech over here, here's media here, and here's entertainment. You know what? They operate totally different ways, totally different cultures, and they don't know each other until now. Well, guess what? Everybody is a data company now. They all have content, and they're all trying to monetize it.
Yep.
So they got to collaborate. So what we're doing is putting in the room the tech people, you know, like Samsung, with the media people, like Fox and Univision, with the tech companies out there, and with the broadcasters, and kind of figuring out where we go from there.
Cool. Well, so I just a quick mention. You mentioned the word amphibians, and it brought it in my head. I think you know what I'm about to talk about. So you wrote a story in Broadcast Beat. We have an NAB Show Edition digital magazine. It's quite extensive, about 218 pages, I think. You wrote a story. I don't remember the exact title of it, but it involved unicorns and amphibians.
It did.
Interesting title for sure.
And I think it was, you know, don't try to be. You don't want to be a giant, and you don't want to be a unicorn, because neither of those are real. But amphibians are. And it's all about adapting. And you've got to adapt. And what's so tough today is, you know, the bandwidth's there, but the culture is not there. You do a deal in Silicon Valley, it slides if you're dealing with Google. You deal with the traditional media entertainment industry, there's a problem. They have a big, it's legacy, and they don't want to cannibalize themselves. So so the question is, do you build a big wall? Well, you know, the wave's going to come over that wall. So so the smart ones are saying, you know what? I'm going to start cannibalizing myself now, grow a new arm, a leg, a toe, because I'm going to get ahead of the curve.
Right.
Because that's what amphibians do. Because if you wait, okay, so you'll save the market. You'll save cash for another year or 2 years. But it's happening because consumers are adopting, watching technology differently, or content. Technology's changing, and it's not going back.
So I've got the, actually maybe I don't have the SPROCKIT page up on the site here, but I will in a minute here. And I'll show you guys. I'll show everybody the site. Yeah, if you guys could bring up the web browser page in just a second. So Sprocket, let's just talk about some of the companies, if you don't mind. There's one in particular that comes to mind, and I've got a special relationship with them, Eddie Vacay at Amp Live. It's quite an interesting company. Could you talk about that?
You know, I can, but I hate. Let me talk about the industry picture in general.
Yeah, sure.
What I hate is highlighting one company or other.
You got it.
I
You're
love
right.
all my children.
Okay, got
it.
Got
So,
it.
the bottom line is that you've got companies in various different buckets. Companies that are affecting the way content is created and monetized to bring it more efficiently pre and post production. You got companies that are working on engagement, so you can vote, in real time about what you're watching and whether you like it or not. You got companies that are allowing you to actually purchase. They're filming you. They go, I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
And they're buying your shirt.
Yeah.
Live, and there are also companies that are actually curating the content. So instead of the broadcasters and network news telling you what you want to watch, basically going to the consumer, and they may say, well, you care about this over here? There's a big crime issue over here. And the person goes, no, I really care about 30 minutes late. It's not time right. And so giving feedback to the networks and broadcast, which you should be covering, not what they think you should be covering. And, things about bandwidth, a whole idea of how you make bandwidth work better. So that's kind of the things that are happening.
Great. Well, again, Harry Glazer, founder of Sprocket. You have an interesting career and a really interesting program. It's an honor to have you on the show, and I can't wait to have you back. Again, we'll be back in just a minute on the 2016 NAB show coverage from NAB Show Live.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Craig Adams from CBS 6 WRGB TV in Albany, New York, the world's very first television station. You're watching NAB Show Live.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Again, now we have a special guest. Jeff Wood is the Vice President and General Manager of Workstations and Thin Clients at HP. How you doing, man? It's nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
All right, so we've chatted with you on Broadcast Beat's coverage in the past with Janet West and Deborah Kaufman. But talk about what you do at HP.
We've been in the business for about 3 decades now, and really associated with the media and entertainment market, specifically over the past 2 decades, and solving big problems for them, making sure we have the best workstation equipment for them, driving the best video timelines, performance that they need to get their job done, CG work, whether it's 3D animation, video timelines. We want to provide the best to the industry.
You guys are certainly, HP is big in the entertainment industry, huge in M&E. What are some of the new technologies you got?
Well, what's amazing, we've announced a lot of things at the show, but even working with the media and entertainment industry, we've driven our Dream Color displays, which we actually won an Academy Award for last year.
Very sexy displays, and they're awesome. I use them, actually.
Absolutely, for color critical computing. So all the way up to our high-end Z8 workstation, where a lot of the production companies are using to do all their CG work, 3D animation work. A lot of the broadcast guys are using it for video editing, what have you. And then also, we just introduced our latest Z1 all-in-one workstation. So gorgeous 24-inch display, 4K resolution with a full-blown Intel Skylake architecture and NVIDIA graphics. So very simple, looks like a display, but it has the whole compute device powering the solution.
Cool. So one thing that I love is supercomputing. I've built quite a few render farms, actually. And you guys, you guys specialize in that stuff big time. HP builds some crazy stuff. I've built, just recently put together about a 2100 core render farm. It's screaming fast. But talk about what you guys do with render situations.
Yeah, so from a rendering perspective, you might have heard that we did split the company last year. So HP moved into our PC and print company, which is HP Inc. And then Hewlett-Packard Enterprise now holds all the server, data center work, server storage, networking, and the like. So they're continuing on with that particular product line. We, on the other hand, on the PC and print side, the highest end of our system are the HP workstations. So high-end Z840 today is capable of dual processors with 22 cores each, right? So a 44-core machine capable of a terabyte of system memory, up to 24 terabytes of internal memory. So you have a supercomputer under the desk.
Oh, yeah, right. That's amazing. So where are you guys located? And do you have I assume you have a huge research and development division.
We do. Our headquarters are actually in Colorado, just north of Denver. And again, we've been there for over 3 decades, and we've survived many acquisitions and mergers. And we were the first in the industry to create a branded workstation product over 30 years ago. And all the guys that were trying to compete with us at the time, IBM, Sun, SGI, they're all gone, right? We're the sole survivor of the industry, and we continue that as the #1 workstation provider to the industry.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of folks, the first name that comes to mind is kind of like a brand, a household name type of thing.
Yeah.
But so Liz, if we have another package we could play, is that right? But so go ahead and talk about the processing power of your systems.
Yeah, so we work closely with the industry graphics providers, NVIDIA and AMD.
Okay.
NVIDIA does a lot of great work optimizing the timeline for Premiere Pro, After Effects, Media Composer from Avid, and running on our workstation products. Now, we've integrated also taking away the bottleneck of I/O. Guys are driving 4K, 6K, 8K video resolutions now. It's, the data sizes are growing exponentially. So we've invented what we call the Z Turbo drive, which is a PCI Express M.2 technology.
Okay.
And we introduced at the show a terabyte card. So now you can actually RAID these cards for lots of storage. It's driving throughput up to 9 gigabytes per second. So very fast opportunity to take those data sets into the timeline very quickly.
Wow, I mean, you guys are certainly have some impressive stuff. Again, Jeff Wood from the media and entertainment portion of HP. It's an honor having you on the show, sir.
Thanks, man.
And we're going to have you back.
All right, good to see you.
We'll be back in just a few minutes on the 2016 NAB Show coverage by Broadcast Beat and NAB Show Live.